Hi, this is Ken Parker welcoming you to another episode of Common Ground, the policy roundtable where we bring together a panel with diverse views on issues of concern to Newton residents and try to hammer out some of our differences. For those of you who are new to our show, let's review the format. First, I introduce a topic. Then we go around the table once, with each panelist expressing a viewpoint. I then select the two panelists who disagree the most strongly and ask them to speak directly to one another in hopes of finding some area of agreement. At the end of each segment, I give an assessment of how we did at finding common ground and occasionally put in my 2 cents on the topic as well. That's the usual format. It's a little different tonight because, as our regular viewers know, this is election season, and during election season we try to introduce some of the new candidates for office. Incumbents, most of the active Newton folks are familiar with, or at least people who have been around for a while. But it's great for people to be able to meet some of the new candidates. Now, as we do on the show, we don't have a debate format per se. We have more of a conversation and let people talk about what they think, and hopefully it's informative of what people's ideas are and who you might want to vote for. So without further ado, let me introduce tonight's panelists. First of all, on my left is Jennifer Bentley.
Hello.
Jennifer, welcome to Common Ground.
Thank you for having me on the show.
Thank you for coming. And tell me, please, about what you do professionally. I know you have an architecture background, but you do something a little different than architecture.
I do. I have a degree from Colgate University in art and art history with a concentration in architecture. And I also have a degree from Penn, a graduate degree in historic preservation. And coming
That's
out
pretty relevant to Newton.
It is. We have a lot of historic treasures in our town.
We have historic districts and historic
Exactly. I'm on the historic commission as well, so
wow.
I was able to parlay that into something useful. But coming out of school, it was really difficult to find a job that would allow me to live in the Boston area and actually eat dinner and have a life. So
you want to do both, live in the Boston and eat dinner. Wow.
I didn't even have kids back then, and so I went into the architecture field in marketing, where I use my architecture background to get jobs and do PR and just help out in the office when we do have historic things that come up. So I'm able to use a little bit of it, but.
So and you're a member of the Historic Commission, the
Yes.
Newton Historic Commission.
Yes,
as well.
I'm a 3-year member, and I'm going on my 2nd year right now.
Well, thank you again for coming on the show, and welcome.
Thank you.
Tarik,
All right.
welcome back. You've been on the show once before.
Twice.
Twice before.
Twice
oh,
before.
wow.
Yeah.
Third time's the charm.
Yes,
You're going to get
that's
it right
right.
this time, right? No, just kidding. So you work for some little college in Cambridge, I think?
Yeah, that little college in Cambridge, the oldest one in the country, I believe.
Small and old.
Yes,
right?
that's right. And I work for the publishing division. Harvard
University Press?
Harvard University Press. We've been around for the press has been around for over 100 years.
Wow.
So yeah, we are still publishing
So
those
it's
books.
brand new compared to the university.
Yes,
then.
that's right. It is. Yeah, you got to look at it like that. Yeah, Harvard University just had I think its 325th anniversary.
Wow.
So yeah.
So less than a third of the total.
That's right.
And what do you do for Harvard University Press?
I am the royalty specialist. So it is my job to send out the checks, the statements, and other documents to authors, agents, publishers all over the world.
So you must be very popular with the authors.
Yes, that's right.
Oh, Tarik, you're sending money.
Yes, that's right. Yes, yes. I'm the one who sends out the statements, so you could get a statement that says anything from $7 to several $1,000s. So it all depends on how many books we sell. Yeah.
And you're also a member of the Newtonville Area Council?
Yes.
So you're technically not a first-time candidate.
No.
You're an elected
Yes, that's
official.
right. Yeah, I am an elected official right now. I'm the vice president of the Newtonville Area Council.
And have you managed to wield that power with humility?
No, it's not. It's being an area councilor has been a very positive experience. You get to hear a lot, and we see a lot what's happening in Newtonville over the last couple of years, and probably with some more to come in the coming years. We might even talk about that tonight, maybe.
I think we might talk a little bit about things to come in the coming years tonight.
Right.
And things that have come past. We'll talk about all three ghosts of Christmas, past, present, and future.
Sure.
Not quite in that part of the holiday season yet. But,
that's right.
And so, well, thank you again for coming back on the show. There's a lot to get to, but let me start off with pretty basic question. Start with you, Jennifer.
Sure.
Why do you want to be on the Newton City Council?
You know, I see all the things that are going on in Newton right now, and I feel like, you know, this is my opportunity to stand up and really be able to shape the future of Newton. You know, I have been involved lightly in politics, in local politics, starting with Austin Place and Washington Place and all the active activity that was going on in Newtonville during those times. My husband, Braden Houston, actually ran for the same spot that I'm running for in 2017. So
that must be an interesting household dynamic.
No, it's totally fine. You know.
So 2 years ago, your husband ran.
Yes.
And he didn't win.
He did not win.
And you're like, that looks like fun, or losing, or
I can do it better.
Oh, you can. Oh, I see.
No, it was we had discussed this before I decided to run, and you know, that we thought, should he go back up or should I try it? And I think it's a really a tiring process. It's a lot of work to do, and so I think, you know, I was up for the challenge at this time, and he's working on our house and refinishing all that stuff. So he said, why don't you take a shot at it? So I'm gladly running, and you know, I just want to make sure that I've heard from a lot of our residents that they feel like their voices aren't getting heard, and I want to be the person that can be the conduit for their voices on the city council. So that's, you know, I love Newton. I want to help out. I want to get involved.
Thanks, Jennifer. So Tarik, how about you? What made you take the plunge?
You mean, why do I want the most thankless job in the city of Newton? And you have to work extra hard to get it?
I think that might be school committee, but I'm not sure. But
it's up there.
Pretty, you don't have to do redistricting.
Okay,
at least.
that's right.
And teacher contract negotiations.
No, I don't want any part of that. But to what Jennifer said, it's really all about, why do I want to be a city councilor? Being a voice for the residents of Newton. I think so many people, when I go to doors and they start talking to me and I talk to them, and one common theme is that the city council does not do a good job listening and acting on what the residents want to see and what they want Newton to be. They really don't. There seems to be a strong disconnect. And hopefully, if I'm on the council, I would be that strong voice, someone who would truly represent the residents of Newton. People seem to forget is that the city council works for the people, not the other way around. And that is something that I would like to bring to the table if I am elected on November 5th.
Thanks, Tarik. Before I get to my next question, I should remind our audience, because we have a very well-informed audience that probably already knows this, which particular offices our guests are running for. So both Jennifer Brantley and Tarik Lucas. Am I pronouncing your names right? Okay, good.
Bentley.
Sorry, Bentley.
Like the car.
Bentley. Sorry. Jennifer Bentley and Tarik Lucas are running for city councilor at large from Ward 2. So sophisticated Newton voters will know, well, even if you don't live in Ward 2, you can vote in this race. And very, very sophisticated Newton voters will know that you get 2 votes in this race because there's 2 seats, and that there are 4 candidates running. The other candidates are both incumbents, Jake Auchincloss, I hope I pronounced that right, and Susan Albright. And so there are 4 people running for 2 seats. So as a Newton voter, you get to vote for 0, 1, or 2. You may not vote for 3 or 4 of them, or your votes do not count. So you could vote for one or both of my guests tonight, or neither of them.
Well, we hope you're voting for both of us.
Okay.
Yes, that's right.
That's okay. Right. So so I'm gonna. I appreciate your enthusiasm for representing people, Tarik. But what I'd like to know, and I think what many of our viewers probably want to know, is what you want to change about city government. Is there a policy, something that you wake up in the morning and go, oh darn it, I could do that. That could be so much better.
Yeah. Well, this one is very, very simple, and it's been talked about a lot this election season, and that's transparency in our elected officials. I said this in this building, in this studio, during my Ward 2 at-large forum, and that was, we need more transparency from our elected officials.
So, no, I'm sorry, I'm not asking the question well.
Yeah.
I'm talking about a policy,
Yes,
like
this
an,
is it.
like
Yes,
an
this is it.
ordinance or
Yeah,
something?
This is it.
Okay.
I would like to see the voting records of every city councilor and school committee member posted on the city's website, where we have easy access.
So let me just ask a more focused question then,
Yeah.
because I don't think I'm getting to what
Yeah,
I want to
okay,
get to.
all right.
Is there when I say a city policy, I mean, like, let's just say, is there an ordinance? Is it primarily the city council is a legislative
Yeah,
body,
that's right.
also has special permit granting
Yes.
authority,
Yeah.
also has a role in the budget.
Yeah.
Is there if you could change any city ordinance, one of the city laws, what would you change?
That's a tough one. Which law would I change? I would say laws that are probably coming up in the years to come. Probably something that's not there now. The big thing for me is Washington Street and the future of Washington Street, and that's the Washington Street vision plan. It is not a very good vision plan. It allows for an uncontrolled amount of density and housing and buildings and developments along Washington Street, and the process has not been thoroughly
So our
vetted.
zoning ordinances?
Zoning. This is related to zoning. Yeah, it's
Okay.
strictly zoning. So I know next year with zoning on Washington Street, the city council is ultimately going to approve it, and I believe I would be.
I'm saying you know they're going to approve it?
Well, they don't have the time to approve the zoning. The vision plan, it will be this year. Next year will be the zoning. And hopefully I am on the council and I can put in some responsible zoning and advocate for responsible zoning.
Okay, great, thank you.
Yeah.
We're gonna get into talking about zoning later,
Yeah.
so you can tell us
Okay.
in more detail
Sure.
what that responsible zoning
Yeah.
look like. I want to give Jennifer a crack at a policy.
Well,
she
of course, Tarik steals my answer.
Yeah.
Okay. There
and
must
many
okay.
others. But you know,
Well, you went first on the first question.
that's
so
true.
I'll get
That's
on
true.
the-
That's only fair. Although he can't tell the same stories that I tell about why he wants to get involved. You know, again, I agree with zoning. I think there's a whole. You know, we're ready to redesign all of our zoning. And with my background, you know, I really have some expertise that could be helpful, knowing building and knowing what's going on in the historic world. And so I really like to get my claws into that one. But the one specific thing that I'm concerned about right now that's coming through is landmarking. If people who are paying attention, you know, we are trying to rewrite or redesign the ordinance for landmarking, and it's kind of been put up to the council that we're, you know, the people who have the power to landmark are abusing that power, and so I just wanted to.
The Historic Commission has that. Power.
Yeah, basically, but we haven't really done any landmarking. We have so many things that we should be
So
landmarking.
a landmark is something that's historically significant, over 50 years old, and
Yep.
and then there's limits on what can be done with it. Is
Yeah,
that
and
correct?
it's you know, we're saving our treasures and making sure that things don't come down that can never be replaced. Every time we knock down a historic building, you can never bring it back. And so right now it's kind of going through the chamber, and I'm hoping that, you know, it gets held long enough for me to come in with my expertise and have a voice in that discussion. Because I listen to the conversations, and there are a lot of you know, inaccuracies that have been out there, and rumors that come through the town or through the city. And so I just want to make sure that, you know, that ordinance is protected and that we have the opportunity, someone that has expertise in this has an opportunity to landmark, and, you know, hopefully more proactively than we've done in the past.
Great, thank you. Well, let me ask you this. We talked about the ordinances and zoning. There's another part to our city government that was on the ballot a couple of years ago, which is our city charter.
Yeah.
And there have been proposals to change the charter to reduce the number of councilors. There was the Charter Commission came up with a proposal that would have imposed term limits and eliminated the ward councilors, the locally elected neighborhood councilors. Neither one of you is running for the ward councilor position. So I'm going to ask you both, what do you think about the charter? Is there anything you'd change in it? Do you like the composition of the city council? Would you eliminate ward councilors, at-large councilors, reduce the size? What are your thoughts on the city council composition and the charter generally?
Yeah, I mean, you know, I don't think we should be eliminating the ward counselor. I think that's really important. I know Tarik will talk more about this. I've heard him say it lots of times. But
So now you don't want to go first.
No, I don't want to steal his thunder. But the ward councils are very important. In terms of the size of the council, I think a good compromise could have been the 8 and 8 situation, the model.
So 8 ward councilors.
8 ward councils, 8 at large, and then those at large would come from a ward, so that you wouldn't have people grouping up all over the city.
So are you saying that you would think that's better than the 24, or do you like the 24?
I like the 24, but I can understand how people don't like the 24, and I think 8 and 8 would have been a compromise. It would have been something
Given
in the
the
middle.
choice, though, in a perfect world, would you stick with the 24, or would you go to 8
Well, I'm
and 8?
concerned that we won't be able to get things done with 8 and 8, with 16. There's a lot of stuff that is going through committees, and you have a lot of time that you need to, counselors that need to be on these committees to make decisions. And reducing that automatically puts another stress on that counselor to take on another committee, in theory. I don't know how they would work it out, but I like the 24 just because of the diversity of thought and perspective. But if there needs to be a compromise made, I think 8 and 8 is fair.
Right. What about you, Tarik? What do you think about the city charter?
Well, I worked actively on the No on Charter campaign, which kept local representation in Newton, mainly the ward councilor. And one of the things that happened after the election 2 years ago is that the city council voted to reduce the size of the council to the 8 and 8 model. I fully endorse the 8 and 8 model. I think it is much better than our current system on how we elect our city council members. I'll give you just some basic reasons. Number one, it keeps local representation. You get to keep your ward councilor. Number two, you still have equal representation. Instead of having 3 councilors living in one ward, now you have 2, but it's 2 for every ward. It simplifies the ballot. I can't tell you how many times this year where I have had to try to explain the difference between at-large and ward, and how you have 1 vote or 2 votes in the at-large race, whereas the 8 and 8, you only have 1 vote for an at-large councilor. So it simplifies the ballot, and we'll also have more competitive elections. Right now, we have a lot of races in this election which are non-competitive. School committee and mainly its city council, they will automatically walk on to their next term without a competitive race. If you reduce the size of the at-large councilors, those two at-large councilors, in theory, would have to go head-to-head to win the seat. And I think that strengthens our democracy.
More accountability.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you for anything else on the charter you'd want to change? Anything you don't like?
That was the big one.
Okay,
There's some small
you like
things
the 8
in
and
there.
8, you like the 24. We had a
Yeah.
little disagreement around the table here.
Mm-hmm.
Very mild so far, but
Yeah.
maybe we can get to something juicier down there. Let's see what we can do. But and I know you both want to talk about zoning and planning and development issues, and I know that once we get to that, that's going to take up the rest of the show. So I'm going to ask you about a few other issues first before we get to the main course. So to speak, because that is the big issue that a lot of people are concerned about in the city. Here's an interesting one that people have gone back and forth a lot on in recent years, which is leaf blowers. The people have been concerned about the noise and the air pollution. There was a sort of a compromise enacted about a year ago that said that there's some seasonal restrictions, there's some decibel restrictions. I'll start with you on this one, Tarik. How do you think that's working, and is there anything you change? Would you ban leaf blowers outright? Would you ban gas-powered leaf blowers? Would you like the ordinance? Where are you on this?
It's hard for me to answer that question because I actually rent my apartment, so I've never actually used or hired someone to use a leaf blower, so I don't have any actual first-hand knowledge how much of a burden it is.
Well, in terms of do you hear them when they're?
I still hear them. I think we could have some common sense rules when it comes to leaf blowers.
No strong views on this at this point?
No, I mean I think we shouldn't be too burdensome on those people who use the leaf blowers. To it's a job. It's a job that someone needs to put a roof over their house and to feed their family. It is a job.
So you like the current ordinance?
Yeah,
then?
it's fine. I would be against putting on anything too strict. But some basic common sense things which everyone can agree to, I would.
I'm
be for
not
that.
sure the current
Oh.
ordinance had everyone agreeing to it,
Yeah,
but
well-
it did get a majority vote of the
Yeah,
city council.
council. Yeah.
So, Jennifer, any thoughts on leaf blowers?
I mean, personally, it doesn't bother me. The noise doesn't bother me, except when 7:30 in the morning rolls
Yeah.
around and someone's blowing it outside my window. Then I'm a little irritated just being woken up. But I've been talking to a lot of landscapers out there who were upset that they now have to find alternate means of doing their job, and I think it's tough on some of the people who use this, like you're right, for a living. And I don't think right now that the way it's set up, it doesn't seem like people are following the ordinance, because there are leaf blowers all over my neighborhood, and there are other people who are making just as much noise doing other things that aren't getting fined. And so it's like if we can't enforce this, then why are we penalizing the people who are actually following the rules?
Just to be clear, you're saying we can't enforce the current ordinance?
Well, we can enforce it, but like the police will come. You make a complaint, the police come. The landscaper's already gone, or they've already stopped what they were doing.
Would you like to change the ordinance, or would you keep it the way it is, or would you propose an amendment to it to make it more enforceable?
I would like to make it more enforceable if we're going to have this ordinance, because I don't think it's fair if people are actually following it.
One proposal that would have been more enforceable would be, say, electric only and no gas-powered ones. And then it would either, that's a gas-powered one, it's not allowed here. Is that the kind of thing that you're...
I think that's a fair compromise. I mean, it's not as powerful to use the electric, but, it does the job and you get it done. It's a little
and
quieter.
they're much less noisy.
Yeah.
Right? Okay, so a few more hot issues in the city.
We're going right through that list.
Yeah, I'm gonna look at. I've got a list and I'm checking it twice. I'm on a Christmas theme tonight. I don't know. Anyway, actually, I'm not going to continue directly down my list. I'm going to skip a couple and go to the another hot issue: snow clearing. It's getting to be hot this time of year.
Yeah.
Snow not being
Getting there.
The question here, and I guess, Jennifer, your turn to go first,
Sure.
is the City Council recently enacted a fine for failing to clear the snow from your sidewalk. There have also been complaints about the city piling snow at intersections on sidewalks, and about people putting snow and ice onto sidewalks when they're doing their plowing, causing these little walls on the sides of their driveway. So I guess my question is, do you support what was recently enacted? Do you think it'll be effective? And is there anything else you'd like to see done in terms of the city sidewalk plowing routes, anything else?
Well, I have two kids. One is in 7th grade and one's in 2nd grade. They both walk to school. And so, when we have sidewalks that aren't plowed, it doesn't make a very walkable route for them to go to school. And I get nervous because that means they have to go out into the street, which is already compacted due to the snowbanks.
So I think everyone would agree the sidewalk should be safe. What type of a solution would you advocate?
I agree with the fine. It's maybe not the first time or the second time, but definitely if you're a repeat offender and you're not clearing the sidewalk for the people. I mean, it's not even just the kids. It's seniors who are trying to get around, people who are walking and running. It's just dangerous to be in the street.
And the other side of that is, and people sometimes say, well, everyone on my block cleared their sidewalk, but then the city dumped a huge pile of snow on the corner, so people still have to go into the street. Do you have any thoughts on what would you say?
Maybe the city shouldn't do that.
Well, I mean,
or
the city's contract.
Well, that's true. That's true. We live in a really tight-knit neighborhood, and so we're constantly, we'll not only do our driveway and do our sidewalks, but we might do the sidewalk down next to us, across the street. Someone who's a senior in our neighborhood will do that. And so it doesn't seem to be a problem like in our neighborhood, and I think we would be willing to pitch in to get it done to make sure that our kids could get to school and our seniors could walk.
Again, right.
But the city shouldn't be making the problem worse. We should be making it better. We should be helping out.
Right. Okay, Tarik, any thoughts on this?
This is something which I haven't really given much thought, so I didn't really at first understand what the concerns was, because well, unlike you and Jennifer, I don't have kids. So my kids definitely don't walk to school because for a lack of having them.
Well, do you walk around the city much?
I do walk. I mean, I live just off of Washington Street in Newtonville, so I do like walking in Newton. I have problems with the ordinance that the city council passed. I think it's a good first step. I would have voted in favor of it, but I have many questions and problems with it, and how they measure how much snow you need to remove. And there are certain.
Do you think it's too strict or not strict enough?
It's hard to enforce. It's going to be difficult to enforce because you need to clear the sidewalk within 24 hours of the last
And it was
of
a
the last
3 foot
snow.
wide path.
And I thought it was 2 or 3 feet. I can't remember which one it was, but it was probably 3 feet.
That's
but,
the way I
yeah,
remember it,
but
but-
what if it's only 2 feet? Are you still going to get fined? I mean, the intent is still there that you want a
I think the idea was that maybe wheelchairs couldn't get by.
Sure,
if you didn't
yeah,
have 3
that's
feet.
fine. But if you were to remove only 2 feet or maybe 2.5 feet, and is someone going to go out there and measure the 3 feet? How do you actually enforce it? So the intention is good. The intention is good. I just don't know how we actually enforce it, and who is actually going to be doing the enforcing. So there are just going to be a lot of questions, and you're going to have a lot of. If someone gets fined, there are going to be a lot of appeals. So it's a good first step. I would have voted for it, but I still would like to see a law which makes it easier to enforce. That's all.
Thanks, Tarik.
Yeah.
Let's turn to the city budget and the city's finances. I guess we'll start with the biggest question is from time to time the city of Newton has an override of Proposition 2.5, or one is proposed. Sometimes they pass, sometimes they don't. If Mayor Fuller proposes an override in the next 2 years, would you support that? Or what would be your criteria for whether you would support it?
I would look to see what kind of job she has done in leading up to the override. I would have to know what the big issue at the time was and what we would be funding. Would it be for funding the schools, the unfunded pensions? There are a lot of variables on whether I would or would not support it. So it's just.
So generally, philosophically, if it's for unfunded pensions, is that the kind of thing you're likely to support?
Getting there, yes, I would be likely to support. I wouldn't be happy about it.
Like when you say unfunded pensions, you mean post-retirement
The-
healthcare
yeah,
benefits, OPEB?
OPEB, yeah, exactly, yeah. The OPEB.
And what if it were paying for teachers for schools? If that was the point of it?
I'd probably say yes for teachers, but it would have to be for all of the unions because there are many unions in this city who are due a pay increase. So it wouldn't just be just for teachers. I want to make that very clear.
Teachers, police, fire.
Yeah, it would be for all of the unions. So that I would think long and hard about, but I would probably lean yes right now. But we'll see what leads up to it and how much is needed.
Thanks. And Jennifer, same question.
Well, I agree with Tarik. I mean, it's hard to put a hypothetical yes or no.
People all the time say, I won't support. I mean, I've asked this question
Yeah.
of dozens and dozens of candidates over the years, and I've gotten people who've said, lots of people say, no, I wouldn't support an override. So,
Well, I think I voted the last time for the school override. I voted to approve. I mean, as a voter,
Right.
I supported that because it went to our schools and it was, something that was going to help our entire city. Again, I think it would determine what it was about. I don't want to have to go for an override. We pay a lot in taxes already. I can't even imagine how much more it would add to our tax bill as a homeowner. So that just personally, that makes me a little nervous to be talking about it.
So personally, you wouldn't want it, but would you vote to put it on the ballot?
Again, it depends on what it would be for. And
Same question then, if it were for teachers for the schools?
I agree with Tarik, though. I mean, the unions, it's not just the teachers. I think they're just the pressing issue right now.
I don't mean just salary, but I mean paying for more teachers as school populations go up and whatnot.
Which is inevitably, I'm sure, going to happen. I think our teachers, they do a really important job. I mean, they raise my children. They teach my children. and I value what they do and the dedication they put into it.
So despite your personal misgivings about paying more taxes,
I'd be begrudgingly.
Yeah. And
Would vote to support
what
the
about
teachers.
for the post-retirement health care benefits, the OPEB?
Yeah,
as
I
it
mean
were?
that also concerns me. I don't think an override for that is what we should be doing. We should definitely find better ways of bringing in money to pay that down faster. Coming in with.
Well, that's a terrific segue to my next
Ah,
question.
that's
Thank you,
what I
Jennifer. What are your ideas for other ways of bringing in more money
Well,
for the city?
I think we need to bring in more commercial business here. We are spending a lot of time developing real estate and getting residential units in here, which, that's not, that we can't get the money we need out of those. We need to really have commercial tax base so that we can, get more money so we won't have to have this tax override, sorry.
You're right.
So that we won't
Sure.
have to find other ways. Like, that's the way we should doing it. We should, right now we're building the residential units for Boston and Cambridge, and they're raking in the commercial money that we wish we had.
So just to follow up
Yeah.
on that, are you suggesting that when we have places like the Needham Street corridor that are our primary commercial properties, or Washington Street corridor, where there are proposals to build significant numbers of residential units and primarily residential developments with little bits of of commercial, that's not a good strategy?
Well, I think it would be better if we had, a residential building and then maybe a commercial building. It doesn't have to be a skyscraper. It can be a 4-story building that has, office space in it. We don't have enough office space, I don't think, in Newton, because people seem to be going into Boston and Cambridge for work. They're not staying here. So there needs to be variety.
Do you think Needham, with their, they've got obviously a significant amount of commercial development just over the border from Newton. Do you think that they've taken a good approach to this? Is that something you'd want to emulate?
We could look into that. I don't know enough about Needham and what they've done and what the results are. I mean, we need to see this in action, and then if it's successful, I'd say why not? Why don't we bring that into Newton?
Okay. Well, it's interesting. We've recently hired their economic development director, so it'll be interesting to see what her perspective is on.
Hopefully she can give us some tips.
Yeah, right. Anyway, well, thanks, Jennifer. Tarik, of course, the same question. What are your ideas for generating more revenue?
To go off of what Jennifer said, commercial development is a proven fiscal positive. It brings in twice the tax revenues, and it doesn't have the
Of residential.
then compared to residential, yes, and it doesn't have as many expenses related to residential. So commercial is the way to go. We've looked at Austin Street and Washington Place, and the residential to commercial ratio for Austin Street in Newtonville is 92% to 8%.
92% residential.
And 8% commercial. And looking at the square footage, that's what I'm looking at.
Sure.
And then for Washington Place, it's an 80 to 20. I would like to see more commercial and less residential.
So
in
what would
those
be your
mixed-use
ideal ratio in this kind of thing?
Well, it depends. But on the Newtonville Area Council, we did a big residential survey last year, and we found that about half of the residents who responded to that question want to see something close to a 50-50 mix. So yeah, something closer to a 50-50 mix is a proven fiscal positive for the city, and I think that is the best way to increase revenues without increasing the expenses.
So you may, thanks, Tarik. You may both be aware that occasionally in Newton we have some traffic on our streets.
No.
I don't know if you've noticed this.
We're on Needham Street now.
Took us 3 hours to get here.
Yeah, right. And in fact, I believe we have an illustrative photograph we can show in case you don't know what traffic looks like. I have I don't know, it may appear on the screen at some point during this discussion.
There we
Oh,
go.
there it is.
Oh, okay, yep, that is an example of traffic.
Walnut
that is-
Street.
Yeah, this is Walnut Street, Newton Highlands. You're facing south here, and this line of cars goes all the way to Beacon Street, and it goes way back to like Lake or Lakewood.
Yeah.
It's quite a long line of cars in the morning, and it's every morning and every evening basically during rush hour. So not on the weekends, not necessarily during the middle of the summer, but generally something like this. And obviously that presents both a quality of life issue, if you're trying to get to your child's soccer game or whatever, or trying to get home from work, or if you're just trying to get to the grocery store. And of course there's also an environmental impact with all those cars and all those emissions as those idling engines as people sit there. And of course there's a carbon footprint issue there too, which is something people are increasingly aware of these days. And also there's an economic impact on the city ultimately too, if we can't get to where we're trying to get to. So with the quality of life, environmental, economic impacts of traffic, there's a lot people would like to, certainly your future constituents, should you be elected, would like you to do something about the traffic problems. And so I'm trying to remember whose turn it is to go first. I think yours, Tarik. So what will you do as a city councilor to reduce the traffic problems in the city?
So I know Watertown and Cambridge have done this, and of course parts of Boston. I don't know if it would work in Newton, but bus-only lanes on certain 2-lane roads. I have to go through a bus-only lane. Well, I don't go in the bus-only lane, but
Unless
I have
you're in a bus.
Yeah, unless I'm in a bus, I actually drive to work. But I know people who do take the buses, who do.
Well, you're going to Cambridge. It's
I
hard
go
to get
into
there
Cambridge.
It's hard to get there by public transit. You would do it all the way in on the green line and out on the red line.
But some people do take the bus through Watertown, and I know people who take the bus into Cambridge and who go through the bus-only lanes. They do like them. It speeds up the commute. So that's one thing that we could look at. I don't know on what location in Newton it would be best for it. But the other one is a little more controversial, potentially, and that is maybe a gasoline tax. We would have to ask the state legislature for home rule legislation, and that way in Newton, a couple of cents at the pump might help fund
Wouldn't that just mean Newton residents would buy their gas out of town? Like
yes, yes, that is why it's controversial, and you could just buy it in Watertown.
You go over the line.
Yeah,
to
you
Needham
go to Watertown. Yeah, so it would be nice to see if all of the municipalities, I think there's like 40 municipalities inside 128, if they all would sign an agreement or a pact to
or just
increase,
change the state gas
or
tax?
you could change the state gas tax, but I think a lot of our friends out in Western Mass probably wouldn't go for it. But it'd be better for the environment if it's more expensive to drive a car 5 miles or 10 miles and you're sitting in traffic burning gas.
It might encourage people to buy hybrids or all electrics.
Potentially, yeah, which is better for the environment. It doesn't solve the traffic issue, but it's better for the environment. Okay. So it's a little controversial. It doesn't always work, but
all right. Those are some interesting ideas. Jennifer, what are your thoughts on traffic?
I think solving the traffic problem is a big.
Well, you're running for a big office. So you need to,
I don't know. That's
at the end of the show, I'll give you all the answers.
Okay, good.
I've got them around here somewhere. Where did I put that piece of paper?
I think Newton has a problem with our public transportation at this point. I would love to be able to take public transportation in Newton itself. As a parent, who drives their kids all over the town, I literally.
That's the main job of parents.
Oh my goodness, so many activities. But I can't get from north to south in the city really on public transportation. I think the 59 and the 52 bus would take me there, but I don't have 2 hours to get to Needham Street.
Right.
And so.
And then another 2 hours to go down.
Yeah. And so I really think that it's a tough thing to solve. Although I will say that. With some of these developments and the density that's coming to our city, the things that's already happened, they've already started bringing more traffic to the area.
They've already happened. Are you talking about the one on Washington Street or anything?
Well, that hasn't opened yet. I mean, I'm saying like the development that's going on in Watertown, in Needham, around our town, and not in Newton, but around. That is causing, I think, our traffic to go up because people are cutting through the city to get here. And I can only imagine how much worse it's going to be when we start developing all these projects, bringing multiple units with cars that are coming in and out.
So I guess the logical follow-up question is the city council's also the zoning authority and the special permit granting authority in Newton. So would that concern inform your thinking on whether to grant a special permit or whether to allow larger construction, the effect on traffic?
I most certainly think that is one of the drivers that's causing a lot of people to be upset about all the units that are coming
So, for
in.
example, there's a proposal on Needham Street, on the corner of Needham and Oak, the Northland project. I don't know if you've heard of it.
Oh,
Yeah.
We all have. We all have.
It's they're proposing to build, I believe, 800 residential units plus some commercial development there.
Plus retail.
Yeah. So, do you think that that is an appropriate level of density for that site, based on what you've heard so
Well,
far?
I think something needs to go there. I mean, it's right now it's abandoned buildings and parking lots. It's not a great.
It's not all, but my
not a
son's
destination.
taekwondo is there. There's a bunch of things happening. I mean, the marshals just moved out, but
yeah, I mean,
there are things.
So it'd be nice to have something there. But I just think 800 units is way too many. There's a thought in the city council right now to reduce the parking so that people will self-select out of Northland, and I don't have a car, I'll go to Northland. But we really don't even have the public transit system set up in that area to get those people out of their cars. I don't see the logic there.
So I guess, Mike, do you have a sense of whether 800 units is appropriate for that site?
I think it's way too many.
So I think it's, but you both answered this question. Great. Time for the next question. Well, while we're talking about zoning and land use policy, let me ask you this. One of the recent development proposals, the one on the other side of the city, at Riverside, they were talking at one point about 18 stories, and they've also talked. I think they've been slightly reduced
to 14.
Yeah, but there's proposals in the zoning reform ordinance to allow much higher construction, taller buildings than have ever been allowed before in Newton. In fact, that are taller than any of our surrounding communities allow.
That would be the tallest building on 128.
Right. So 18 stories would have been. Well, I think there's nothing in
I think
Waltham.
14 is as well.
I think Waltham doesn't have anything taller than 10 stories, I believe. So I guess my question is, what do you think about the current height limits under our zoning ordinances? Do you think they're too restrictive? Do you think we should have taller buildings? And if so, how tall?
Are we talking about just Riverside? Or are we talking about the entire
citywide?
city?
I mean, just because they're talking about changing the ordinance to allow them I mean, they can't just allow it in Riverside because they have to change the ordinance before they can grant the special permit for Riverside. And it sets a precedent too. They grant one there, and then the next developer comes along and says, hey, this is how tall you're approving them. It gets a little arbitrary and capricious at a certain point if they don't approve it. Anyway, putting aside the legal arguments, from a policy perspective, how tall is too tall for Newton? The current ordinance good? Do you think it should be a little more restrictive, less restrictive? Where would you come down?
Well,
on this?
I think 14 stories is still too high. It's going to tower over that entire complex, and going to be seen for miles. It's a really tall building. I understand they want to get the density in there, and they want to get the as many people as they can get, and it's better to go up like that. But I think that you have to be very careful where you're going to allow these taller buildings. For example, in West Newton, they're talking about a 10-story building right there next to the Pike, which I think a lot of people would be upset about. That's way too big. It's not in scale with the rest of our community. I think an average height that is good would be a 4-story, possibly 5. But I think we're dealing with 6 now, and that's starting to feel a little uncomfortable.
So you think 4 or 5 is a good limit?
I think that's a reasonable. It's still tall enough to bring in enough people. It's bigger than what we have now, but it's not overly tall and overly just expansive.
Tarik, how tall is too tall?
When you're talking about stories can be very misleading because it depends. Is it a residential building? Is it a commercial building?
Okay, would you have different limits for residential?
Absolutely, because if it's what they're proposing on Washington Street, a laboratory building on the corner of Washington and Crafts, they recently went from 10 stories to 6 stories. However, I found out just by canvassing this year is that laboratory buildings are 15 feet for each story. So if you have a 6-story laboratory building, that's still 90 feet, the equivalent of about an 8 to 9 story apartment building. So That's
What about height limits then?
so then it's about so it depends if you're going stories or height. It depends on commercial or
right.
residential.
Well,
so if it's
given
a-
our
yeah.
current ordinance's
Yeah.
restrictions, are you happy with our current ordinance? Do you think we need something more restrictive, less restrictive?
Restrictive in terms of
How
heights.
high you
Yeah,
can
yes,
build.
yeah, absolutely. And again, it depends on residential. So
Absolutely. Which way? Is it do
Residential-
you like the current ordinance?
oh no, I don't. No, I think we need to redo the mixed-use developments.
So
ordinance, the
right now
zoning.
there are height limits
Yeah,
in our
sure,
zoning
yeah.
ordinance. Do you think that those height limits are too restrictive, not restrictive enough, or just
Not-
about right?
Not restrictive enough.
So you think that we should bring down the heights?
Bring them down, yes. And then we need to look carefully on what type of building it's for, because it's really in the details between commercial, laboratory, and residential. I know you opened it up with Riverside. I believe they're now proposing a 13-story building along 128 in Lower Falls. I think that's still way too big for the area, and I would bring that down, and that would be a residential building, of course.
And you'd bring it down to something that's allowed under our current ordinance.
I would go for zoning for that site particular. I would look at what the Lower Falls Improvement Association. They've submitted their own zoning amendments. I don't have them memorized off the top of my head, but I would go for what those zoning amendments say. It's very similar to what was approved back in 2013. Very similar, and that passed through the city council. And I think we can do that again and should do that again for the Riverside site.
One of the justifications that's often given for large-scale development projects is the societal need for housing, sometimes referred to as for affordable housing, although recently, in my day on the city council, a lot of us were what were called affordable housing advocates, and so we were working on the accessory apartment ordinance and the inclusionary zoning ordinance. Now it sounds like you've got more general housing advocates who just want any kind of housing at any price. But my question is, and actually let me quote from what someone said at the public hearing on Northland recently. There's a gentleman who I thought was very articulate, speaking on behalf of a group called Engine 6. And he pointed out that, that Newton has become less affordable in recent years. I wish I could remember the statistic.
Yeah.
I think I'm going to go back and listen to it. But basically, the cost to live in Newton has gone up in recent years. And I think his prescription for how to deal with that may differ from mine. But I think he made a good point about the cost of living in Newton. So my question is, do you think that Newton's efforts in recent years to create affordable housing have been on track? Are they good? Are they good ideas? I mean, some of the things that have happened, of course, there been some redevelopment of some older housing in certain particularly north of the Pike, I think, and so you're probably familiar with it in your neighborhood. There were some changes to the inclusionary zoning ordinance when I was on the city council. It was 25% of the units had to be affordable, those above what you could build by right. So 25% of the bonus, but of course you could build no units by right in a commercial district, no residential units.
Yeah.
So that meant it was 25% of the whole development, and they've amended that to 15%.
Yeah.
There were also developments that were 50% affordable, like the Hamlet, and it seems like in other words, there were many developments that were approved by the city that were way over the minimum. There's been an effort in recent years to create housing, and there's been a philosophy, I think, that was probably put in place probably during the Warren administration, and I think it seems to have been continued into the Fuller administration. So I guess my question is, I think it's your turn to go first.
Okay, yeah.
Isn't it? Tarik, do you think that our current affordable housing strategy has been effective at creating the affordable housing that I think most people in the community would like to see created?
No.
What would you do differently then?
Short answer, no.
Okay, follow-up question is what would you do differently?
What I would do differently, I would allow for more, I would put a higher percentage of affordable housing units.
In the inclusionary zoning ordinance?
Absolutely. As long as the private sector, that's who we're dealing with right now mainly, the private sector building the large masses of houses, those private developers are always going to offer the bare minimum of affordable housing. We need to make sure we raise that level from 15. Actually, it's now 7. I think in some cases it's 17 and a half percent.
The 17
the workforce housing, yeah, which
right,
is a little,
which is 100% of area median,
yeah,
so it's not technically
affordable housing, yes. But to allow for
semantics, though.
yeah,
right?
I know, yeah. But to allow for more affordable housing, raise that 15% to when you said, which I didn't know till a couple minutes ago, it used to be 25%.
25%.
Yeah.
Right now, it's 15% of the whole project.
Yeah, sure.
And it was 25% of what you could do above and of what you were asking for above what you could do by right.
Yeah.
So on a property where you could build 1 unit by right, if you wanted to build 5 units, 2 of them would have to be affordable because the fractions were rounded up under that ordinance. Now they round them off, up or down. And right now, if you wanted to build 5 units on a property where you could do 1 by right, under the current ordinance, you would need 0 affordable because they under 7, they give you a free pass.
That's right. Yeah.
Didn't used to be the case.
I would like to raise the affordable housing threshold, the minimum, from 15 to something closer to a 25. And the argument against it is that, well, then private developers won't build the housing because they don't make enough money. But I say it's not my job as a city councilor to make sure the private investor, the private developer, makes money. It's my job to provide an opportunity for everyone. And that's something which our city council does not do enough pushing back on the private developers.
Thanks, Tarik. Jennifer?
I agree with Tarik on raising the percentage. If we're going to get serious about affordable housing, we can't keep building luxury units. I mean, that are not affordable for anyone. I saw some of the numbers come in for Austin Street, and I was shocked. I couldn't even afford them. I mean, they're just way above.
Like what are they selling for?
2-bedroom apartments from, $4,000 to $6,000
a month?
A month. Plus parking.
You don't get a year for that.
No. Plus parking, plus your pets are extra, your
Utilities.
electricity.
$4,000 to $6,000 a month.
And that was on
2 bedroom.
apartments.com.
Okay, so you want to talk
it's-
affordable housing. My first, when I was elected to the city council, I was like Tarik, I was renting at the time. My wife and I lived in the red brick apartments on Crystal Lake in the early days of my time on the city council. And I believe that our rent was $775 a month.
Oh.
Now, it wasn't a big apartment, but a beautiful location right on Crystal Lake, bedroom, bathroom, living room, little kitchen. That's it. But it was great for a young couple with no kids.
And what year was this?
I was elected in '91.
Oh,
we lived there. We lived there '93 to '98. We lived there
Okay.
for 5 years.
All right.
So we were not living there when I was first elected,
Sure.
but soon thereafter.
Yep.
Anyway,
That's
so but in terms you talk about rent,
Yeah,
Jennifer, that
it's-
sounds kind of expensive.
It's a little bit, and I assume that Washington Place is going to be even higher. I mean, it has a better view, I guess.
A better view
Better
of
view
the
of the pike.
You can actually see the traffic. But when this happens, and we have this luxury housing stock. I mean, I'm not going to call anything else. It's luxury housing stock. It's going to raise all the other rents in the area. Now you have a market rate that's being influenced by these luxury apartment buildings that are going to happen all over the city. And someone that like me who's coming into, if I wanted to rent here, or Tarik, he could see his rent go up because of all these other units, because that just drives up the market rate. And so I think, we got to get serious about it. It's we're in a place where we have.
So there seems to be agreement
enough.
that our affordable housing strategy needs work. Do you agree with Tarik's prescription, which is raise the percentage of required affordable units in our inclusionary ordinance?
Yeah, I think that's fair. I mean, that if we're going to have, especially when we have developers, if they're going to, make all this money from the other units, then they should give us. They should give the city more. They should give back a little more.
So there's been this citywide, thank you. There's been a citywide zoning reform proposal, which I guess is being put off until next year.
Sure.
But if you're elected, you get a chance to vote on it. It has a lot of components to it.
Oh, I guess.
But there are a couple that I want to ask you about. The biggest one of which is the ability to build residential by right on commercially zoned properties. What do you think about that?
Well, I think that could solve some of our problems if you have.
Allowing people to build residential in commercial districts?
Yeah, I mean, we need the land, we need the space, we need to get units in there. If they're going to be affordable, maybe that's like a place where we could have more affordable.
How is that
Yes.
consistent with your position that we need more commercial development? Wouldn't that be
Well, that's
using
true.
up
It
our
goes
commercial tax space?
Well, we're not building that either. I mean, we're not building.
Well, so in
commercial
other
right
words,
now.
they would be able to take a property like on Needham Street that's currently zoned commercial and put an apartment building on it under those ordinances, and presumably a lot of them would, because that's more profitable.
Well, that's true. Maybe that's a bad thing. Sorry. I mean,
I'm not the candidate. Do whatever
no,
you
no,
think.
you're right. You're right.
I just.
There
I'm
are
asking
many
tricky
aspects.
follow-up questions.
Well,
sorry.
you are. You got me into a corner on that one. I mean, there are a lot of aspects of this zoning that's one piece of it. I mean, there are other things.
Yeah. Okay. Is there another piece of that
Then why don't you
proposal
try
wanna
another
talk
one?
about? All
See if
right.
we
Well,
get
let me get Tarik on this one, and then we'll go over a couple more aspects of that proposal in our last couple minutes. I told you zoning would take a long time. What do you think about allowing residential by right in commercially zoned districts?
By right, no. By right, no. If we're building more residential units by right, to the best of my knowledge, and you might be able to correct me, it's not subject to our inclusionary zoning. So as a result, you would get less affordable housing in that. No, that is very dangerous to allow building housing by right on commercial.
Okay. Well, let me go through a couple more real quick because we're
Yeah.
getting relatively low on
Sure.
remaining time. What about the proposal to eliminate single-family zoning and allow multifamilies throughout the city? What do you think of that?
I don't think that's a good idea. I mean, I don't live in a single-family home. I live in an apartment building, but I know people who did buy their homes in Newton in a single-family zone. You don't just buy the home; you buy the zoning as well, and you buy into the stable zoning. So I think if it's single-family, yes, it should remain single-family. That being said, we shouldn't be creating more single-family zoning. We should just cap it now and then build, then increase.
Thanks, Tarik.
Yeah.
Jennifer?
I think that's a fair statement. We live in the north side of the city where we have a lot of less single-family house zoning than they do in other parts of the city. So, we're already kind of seeing this opportunity where we have doubles, singles, apartments in houses, and it works out well for us. But you're right. I mean, there's a certain you bought your property, and there's who has rights to tell you what to do to your property. I think, though, if we're going to do it, we need to do it for everyone. We can't just take out little zones in the city and say, well, everyone has single-family zoning taken out except for this part and that part, and we're just going to cause like a big class war.
So, we only have a little bit of time left. Let me just ask what you think about open space and whether open space should be used for city buildings or commercial development, or even if it's privately owned open space, parks, privately owned. What is your position on each one of those?
Well, we seem to be having less and less open space, as time goes on. And again, once you build on an open green space, that's gone forever. It's very hard to get it back and into parkland. So I don't think we should be building in our parks. I don't think that we should be cutting down woods. I don't think that we should try to preserve as much green as we can.
Thanks. Tarik?
Real quick, if it's open space or park space, it should remain open space, park space, or green space. We shouldn't be building on.
What if it's
park
privately
space.
owned?
If it's privately owned, well, I think if you're talking about Webster Woods, then
I was going to ask you about that next.
Okay.
I'm just thinking about a big piece of land, 30,000 square feet, where you've got one house on it, and then they want to build a lot more and use up a lot of the privately owned space to subdivide and build a lot more.
Then to answer that question specifically, no, that would have to be addressed in the zoning redesign for next year.
So you think it's okay, though, potentially, to use up that?
No, I think if it's open space or green space, you should keep it that,
Okay.
especially if there are trees there.
Okay.
Yeah.
And what about, since you raised it, what do you think about the mayor's proposal to acquire Webster?
I reluctantly support the proposal for her to
Okay,
acquire.
the eminent domain.
Yeah.
Okay, what do you think?
I think we should try to protect the woods as much as possible. It makes me nervous that we're going to be spending a lot of money going down a rabbit hole, but we should have those woods.
$16 million, you support it then? Okay. I mean, I'm not trying to.
We're
I'm
going to
not a
run out
leading
of money
question.
pretty soon.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you both very much. Thank you,
Thank you
Jennifer.
for having me on.
Jennifer
Bentley,
like the car, and Tarik Lucas, like the guy who wrote Star Wars.
That's right. My cousin. My cousin.
Your cousin.
Yeah.
Your cousin George.
Yeah.
And thank you to our fabulous crew, to Brian, to Eric, to Will, and thank you to everyone at home for watching. Please join us again next time on our post-election special where we talk about what happened and where we try to find just a little bit more common ground.